So let's talk about the question, who am I? Which is the most fundamental question you can ask and the most important question you can ask. And answering this question correctly is guaranteed ecstasy, basically. And answering this question incorrectly is vast amounts of suffering. So notice that whatever I'm saying is coming and going. So if I give you a verbal answer to the question, who am I? Those are just impermanent pointers to the actuality of the presence of whatever it is that I refers to, which is, as you can see, ever present. Whatever is said about who am I is time bound, it is non existent at first, arises as something spoken for a few seconds, 1 minute, or whatever it is, that whatever amount of time it takes to verbally answer that, and returns to silence after the verbal answer has been given. But I am present before, during, and after the attempted verbal answer. So obviously the answer to who am I is non-verbal. The most beautiful and eloquent answer one can give to who am I is silence. So as mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you correctly answer the question who am I, which is to be experientially in touch with that which I points to, and there can be no suffering in you, because all suffering arises from the misidentification of I with the limited, apparently separate body mind entity. And as children, we are not sufficiently mature to see this, and therefore we take our conditioned mind to be ourselves, in addition to the body, which gives the very deep illusion of being who we actually are. The body is not who we actually are, but we seem to be the body because of emotions, feelings, and the instinct of survival which has been built into the body. And as children, we do not question the assumption that I refers to the body and the mind. And this becomes a deeply embedded axiom with which we live the rest of our life, essentially, unless we suffer enough to see that something is wrong and that life must be looked into with greater depth in order to see why one is suffering. So, until the suffering reaches a certain intensity, one doesn't even question one's own identity. One simply assumes at a very, very deep level that one is the body and the mind, that I refers to the body and the mind. But if you look at it more closely, the body is basically an accumulation of matter and energy. The energy comes from the food that we eat, which in turn grows from the earth due to the sun and rains. And the various features of the body are dependent upon genetics which come from our parents. So obviously the body is not something separate from the rest of the cosmos. It's just a rearrangement of raw material that comes from the cosmos. And if you look at the mind, all the words that we use and the structure that we give to these words in order to create sentences which are logical and sensible have been imposed upon the mind by cultural factors. We can only use those words which make sense to others, and we can only arrange those words in such a way that they make sense to others. So even the mind is inextricably linked to the rest of the cosmos. So to assume that the body mind is something separate and that I refers to this body mind is a grave mistake. And as we've discussed earlier, assuming oneself to be the body and the mind is a massive limitation on the infinitude of the cosmos. And therefore, we live under the twin demons of fear and desire when we live under the assumption of being the body and the mind. And fear and desire are the twin pillars and on which the structure of suffering is built. And in further, the I thought identified with the body mind complex is the seed from which the twin demons of fear and desire arise. So the basic assumption of I referring to the body and the mind as something separate from the cosmos is the cause of suffering, which is basically an incorrect answer to the question, who am I? So if you simply ask yourself this question again, who am I? And see that I refers to the entire cosmos, not anything separate from it. The entire structure of suffering is uprooted from its very origin, and one is free instantaneously. Simply by seeing who one is, pure consciousness appearing as the entirety of creation, manifestation, universe, cosmos, whatever you want to call it. Birthless, deathless, eternally present, perfect, lacking nothing, needing nothing, simply full and complete in itself as it is, here and now. So, the ultimate question is, who am I? And it is also paradoxically the most basic and fundamental question. So, the incorrect answer to who am I leads us through the epic quest through space and time in order to destroy the demons of fear and desire, which is what we are all engaged in basically. In attempting to succeed or get into good relationships or make money or get good at things, we're basically attempting to be in a state where we are desireless, which comes essentially from the idea that there is something to be desired, that life is imperfect. Silent, ever present, birthless, deathless, infinite, eternal, perfect consciousness is the answer to who am I, if it has to be expressed in words. But the real answer is existential and experiential and silent, and that is enlightenment instantaneously.